Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's video on religious trauma. My name is Angel DeSantis. If this is your first video with me, welcome. Thank you for being here. If you've been here 3, 4, 5 times, go ahead and click like and subscribe because it does help. But thank you for being here, and in this week's video I want to talk about the 2 things that I found most helpful besides the stoicism, because we covered that. There are so many things that have been helpful, but I really believe I thought about, could I have done with just one of these things and not the other, and I don't believe that I could have, so I want to offer both of them to you. The first one is the belief that I am not doing life wrong. And religious trauma's whole hook is that you're going to do life wrong. And in order to do life right, let me introduce you to God. And now we're going to use this to control you and steer you, because if we let you go on your own, you would do your life wrong. And so there's this automatic assumption that as a human being, you're going to get it wrong, which then also implies that there's a right way to get it. And the human experience is the human experience. You're not going to do life wrong. If you do not harm yourself and physically harm yourself and physically harm others, or mentally hurt yourself and mentally help others, then that's fine. You're doing life how life happens. Life is very complicated. There's a lot of ups and downs, but I think for the most part, human beings are good, and there is going to be, you're just going to have whatever human experience it is that you are going to have. But religion needs to have you really truly believe at your core that you are doing life incorrectly. And if you really believe that, then you will cling to the thing that they offer, which is kind of a manual for how to do life, quote, correctly. And I think that if you've been involved or had experience with the abusive religion, you know that they're the ones who do the life most horrendously. So it's important that you know that. And I think I have some videos about how to override thoughts. And if I do, it'll pop up here. If not, then I'll make one. But it's really important for you to sit down and figure out, do I believe that I'm doing life wrong? And do I understand that I'm not? Especially if you're here, by virtue of being here and this popping up on your feed, it means that you are searching for healing, or it means that you are trying to go towards a mentally healthy relationship with yourself. Either that or the algorithm is doing something. But generally, I believe people are good and people want to grow and people want to better themselves. And if you're one of those people, it's important that, yes, you'll struggle. Yes, you'll make mistakes. But for the most part, you're not doing life wrong. Making mistakes is part of life. Struggling is part of life. The mental health journey is also part of life. So you're not doing your life wrong. And it's important that if that was taught to you, that you find a way to undo it, because you should have a high opinion of yourself. You are very, very well made. You come with a lot of stuff built in that can bring you to a really beautiful place where you have realized a lot of your potential. And if you're on your journey there, great. You're not doing life wrong. So start with that. And then the way that I did that, this is my second point, the way that I did that was journaling. And I know that I show you guys a lot of books. So today I'm not going to show you them really. These are just this is a little bit of the journals that I've gone through. And all this stuff is just scribbles, But when I started really investing in my mental health, I needed to figure out first what my thoughts were. Because if you don't know what your thoughts are, you don't know how to fix them. What do you need to fix if you don't know what the problem is? And I started reading The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And she says, wake up every morning and just write, just free form. And I didn't want to do it because I was like, oh, I know that I'm stupid. And I know that all my thoughts are wrong. But I was willing to try. And as I tried, I realized it was helpful because it made me have to finish my thought. And if you've been involved in an abusive religion, they need to keep your mind confused, because if you're confused, then you need answers. And they're always there with the answer because, of course, you're doing your life wrong. So here's the answer. So I was always confused, but as I started writing down my thoughts, I would have to conclude the thought and I would have to figure out where it came from. And as I started to do that, then I started to realize that a lot of my thoughts didn't make sense. A lot of them were really negative towards myself. A lot of them assumed that I was doing my life wrong, that I was incredibly stupid, that my only value was like physical labor in service of someone else. Um, and as I started to write that down, I was like, oh my God, like I didn't know these were my thoughts. And as I wrote them down, I realized I didn't want them to be my thoughts, which then could lead me to the next step of, okay, what do I want my thoughts to be? And that's how I found Stoicism. Um, but I really think it's very important if you grew up in a religiously traumatic environment or just a traumatic environment that you find out what your thoughts are, because that is the relationship and that is the voice in your head that you have to yourself. And it's important for you to figure out how much of it is actually yours versus how much of it is built in and actually belongs to someone else. So as you write down your thoughts and you start to become more aware of them, it's important to decide where to go from there, and also to understand that your thoughts now are not your thoughts forever. Thoughts are thoughts. They change. They're not bad or good. They can lead you to bad or good action, but thoughts are just thoughts. But if you were in a religiously traumatic environment, they will have taught you to be afraid of your thoughts, and they will have gone out of their way to diminish your mental structure so you do not have healthy thoughts. They will go out of their way to make you incapable of mental health. And that's something that's really important to know. So when I first started journaling, I felt really guilty. First of all, I was like, oh my God, what if someone finds it and they read it? Because that had happened to me before. I grew up with, oh my God, so many siblings, no privacy, in communes. So there's been a time or two in my life where people have found my diary and turned it into the leader, and then I get in huge trouble. I get a huge beating. Not only do I get a physical beating, but I also get the laying on of hands, or everyone prays against me for my horrible thoughts, and then they read your innermost thoughts to everybody in the commune. Not a good situation. So first I had to remind myself that, you know what, I'm in a safe space. With this book, it's big. I kept it in my glove box because I was always the only one in my car. I was the only one with keys to my car. So I knew I would be in my car with this, and this would be safe in my car. And once I had a safe place to put it, then I could get my real thoughts, like how I really felt, on paper. And then I would just put it in the glove box. So it's important to know, or for you to find a safe space where you can write down your actual thoughts, because you will be taught, if you've been through religious trauma, you'll be taught to police your own thoughts. You'll be taught to cut them off because you know what thoughts you are, quote, supposed to have versus the ones that you actually want to have. And the practice of writing down just your mundane thoughts will allow you a glimpse into what is actually yours versus what is taught, because there is a really big difference, especially if you've grown up with it. So I really encourage you to write down your inner dialogue. And please know that you are not going to find out anything that is more devastating than you already know. Because once you know it, then you can do something about it. But if you don't know it, that's when it stays, because you can't see it. And the things you can't see are the things that are most harmful. Because if you can see the thing, then you can choose it or not. But if you don't know that it's there, then it just continues this damaging cycle that you're unaware of and you don't see, but you see the effects in your life and you don't know where it's coming from, which keeps you in that confused space. So it's really, really important. I think one of the absolute main things that has helped me is journaling. The ability to have to complete my thought and then to look at it and be like, oh, I did not know that I thought that, or like, where did this come from? I don't want this thought in my head. So I would say, if you can, please do write down your thoughts. It is also really interesting as I go through this. This journal I've had since I was 15. This one I got when I was first starting on my mental health journey. This one came later, and I can see my mental health start to go up. So it's also a really interesting log, and sometimes I'll go back and read. I have actually a whole page in here, which makes me sad now, because I'm like, oh, Angel, but it's literally a page committed to how ugly I am. And there's just pages and pages of like, gosh, I'm so ugly. on such a bummer. Only Jesus can love me because I'm so hideous. Somebody called me Shrek the other day, and I read that now and I'm like, oh, so cute. But it is interesting because I'm like, oh, um, I'm glad to know that I was there and that I can heal from that. And if I can, anybody can. We all have the same brain, same ish kind of brain, but we all have a lot of potential and we all have the capacity for mental health. So I really encourage you to journal. So just to swing it all the way back, number one, please know that you are not doing your life wrong. You're not. And number two, complete your thought. And if you can journal, please do, because it will make you finish the thought. And religious trauma thrives on one, you believing that you're doing life wrong, and two, your own mental confusion. And so if you can believe that, no, I'm not doing my life wrong, and actually know what your thoughts are and where they come from, that will free you up a lot so that you do not have to live with this crushing burden of how do people view me? What does so and so think? Am I going to hell? Did I say that right? Um, those are all things that will be taught and like built into you. It comes with the religion, but there is a way to come away from that. There is a way to live mentally well after religious trauma. And I would really, really recommend you to find a way where you can, one, complete your thought, and two, truly believe that you are not doing your life wrong. And for me, I just did a constant reminder when I would feel guilty of like, oh, did I go through the green light too fast? Did I say something wrong? It's just, no, I'm not doing my life wrong. Life is life. It has its own patterns. Sometimes they're haphazard, but that's part of life. So I'm going to leave you here because I keep repeating myself. Um, but I'm not doing life wrong, so it's fine. But I'm going to leave you here with those two things. One, please find a way to complete your thoughts and look at them in a non-judgmental way and just think, oh, those are my thoughts I didn't know. And number two, you are not doing your life wrong. So take those two things with you, and I hope that you have a lovely day. Thank you for being here. I'll see you next time.